You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to the Cards to the Moon podcast. This is the Friday episode we put on every other week. I'm Clark from 5 Card Guys on Instagram, and with me co-hosting is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards and John, who is Trade You at Recess. So guys, off the top, let's talk about the Grail card in this year's Panini Flawless Basketball set, which of course is the Lebron James triple Logoman 1-of-1 card. I don't want to really get into the hysterics of how it was Backyard Breaks that pulled the card. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just read the comments on the golden Instagram post of that triple Logoman being found. Let's just say Backyard Breaks is a very polarizing breaker in the hobby. But what I'm more curious about is, how much do you think this card is worth? Yeah, and then you could talk about Backyard Breaks if you want, but I'm throwing it out to you guys.
I'm gonna pass on Backyard Break because you guys can make your own conclusions on that. Sure. But it is funny. I will mention that you get comments like a god does not exist or karma does not exist. The hobby is wild, and on top of that, this was a promotion held by Whatnot, right?
Right.
So it was actually, and they did something like a Lambo giveaway to all these famous influencers or breakers. You guys got if you haven't checked it out, check it out. But there's videos on it where if the breaker pulls the 1-of-1 Logoman, the breaker gets a Lambo.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
Yeah. And so Backyards gets a Lambo on top of that. So that I'll leave it at that. It just fits the picture. I was going to say something else, but
we'll move on. But yeah, what do you think it's worth?
Everybody's saying 3 to 6 minimum, like 3 million, wow. 3 million plus. And then people are saying as high as 6 million. And that would automatically be the highest non-auto sale. Record-breaking sale, right? So I personally think it's an ugly card. Like if you see it, it's like, it's not that eye-appealing, to be honest. I mean, the concept is cool where you have the actual Logoman of the jersey of each team. So they cut out the back. So I guess there is only one technically, or there are probably many, but they just say that it's one of each, right? So I see the hype of it, but then there's questions. Well, what are they going to do like in the future? Is there going to be another triple Logoman, or you know what I mean? So that's the only, or I guess and what happens to like cases? People who have cases, are they, holding boxes now that the Logoman is pulled? What value is there left in those flawless boxes, right? Yeah. So
it's a good question.
Yeah, I don't 3 to 6 million. I think that's ridiculous.
It's a lot.
I was more thinking 500,000 to $1 million would probably make sense. Even less than that. I mean, the combination of LeBron not making the playoffs, his immediate legendary status kind of taking a bit of a hit, and then combining that with this whole Backyard Breaks fiasco. We talk about marketing. That like everybody has been looking for this moment, right? This was a huge lead up to a climax. Who's going to find the triple Logoman? It was like the big thing in the hobby. And then it was, funny enough, it kind of was like anticlimactic, right? And I think that's really going to affect the marketing of that card. Like I think people, the influencers are still pumping it up. Oh, it's going to be 3 to 6 million. But really, if I was wanting to spend that much money, like if I, like say, for example, if we were Drake, I think, that moment has kind of passed for me. It doesn't feel, that moment wasn't that special. It wasn't nothing crazy. And to be honest, I'd probably be like, that's cool, but on to better things, So
yeah,
I don't know, like the combining of the negative effects of the marketing behind this, LeBron's performance, him not being in the playoffs, him not adding to his legendary status. I think all of that is really going to affect the price, and I'd be shocked if it's sold in the 3 to 6 million that so many people are saying. I'd be more. I'd think more like in the $1 million range, if not even less. But again,
yeah,
what do I know? I know nothing about.
I think they actually, somebody said they have offers of 3 million already.
So, that's insane.
That's I don't know if that's true or not, but even all the articles are highlighting 3 million plus, and then and who knows? Like, I doubt people like Drake will be a purchaser, but you're playing in that game again, right? Like, you got to realize, like, that could be an opportunity. Somebody, a $3 million could be a bargain. 3 million, and then they flip it for 7 if they have the right clientele, or they believe that that card has legs. Then people say you're a moron. I read the comments. You're a moron if you spend $3 million on this card. But then he's the moron laughing at the bank, flipping it for 2 million. That's what everybody said about Super Dave, right?
Yeah.
Or Vegas Dave, Super Dave. That was
showing your age, man.
Yeah, Vegas Dave. Yeah, that's what they're saying with Vegas Dave and his red refractor of the Trout, right? So
that's true.
I mean, it's always perspective, right? It all depends on what perspective you're looking at. If you're looking at it from I guess quote unquote poor man's lens, that's insane. It just doesn't equate to logic, right? But when you're playing in that game, their logic is creating opportunity, telling stories. It's totally different. The end game isn't the same, is what I'm saying. So, in hindsight, yeah, I don't know. It's just it is crazy, 3 to 6 million, but I could see someone actually bidding that high for it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I don't know.
Go ahead. I think if you were very socially aware, though, if I have Moneybags and I'm Drake and I'm spending 3 million, it's gonna get out that Drake was the one that bought it. Anyone who buys this card, I feel like, is gonna get clowned by the internet. Like, it's just one of those moments where the climax ended up being kind of like a clown moment. So whoever buys it is kind of like the clown that's taking on this card. I'm just saying that, like, this is my own opinion. So I feel like, if I was Moneybags and I was wanting this card big time and I was all up in the chase and it was the biggest thing in the hobby, and then for that moment to go down the way it did, I would be completely turned off. I would be like, no, I'm not going to be the clown that buys this card and everybody in the hobby knows that I'm the one that bought it off of whoever got it off of Backyard Breaks, like whoever was the breaker. I mean, the recipient of the card. I don't know. If I had all that money, like, I am not touching this card. They're just so, it's just so closely related to, like, memeing and internet and all that stuff, right? So,
yeah, I mean, I think 3 to 5 million or 3 to 6 million is pretty outrageous. But will it surprise me if someone pays that? Not really.
Yeah.
And like, we have a very poor record on guessing
super
high end cards,
totally.
Like super high end cards. We're like, okay, we're off by $1 million, or something like that. But I'm kind of with you, John. I think there's just was way too much hype going into this. Like, the hype was all about finding the card, and now that it's been found,
like, what does it mean now, right?
Right, it's all about the chase, and now that it's been found, like, I think if it does sell for 3 to 6 million, I just find it hard to see it sustain those values. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I just think it's, at the very best, it's just going to maintain that value. I don't think anyone would want to pay more than that,
right?
From the initial buyer.
Don't get me wrong. I absolutely think it's insane. Like, there's no auto. There's nothing special about the card. It's just, like, it's just jerseys, like laundry tags again. You're talking,
right.
Like, it's not an RPA. It's not anything like, I'd rather have it exquisite and then, buy a bunch more, right? Like, that's the logic, right? But
100%.
It only takes two people to think that, hey, I see value in this, and there's going to be a lot more, because we're not even talking about, overseas money, in the Asia countries that we're talking, people will just buy it to buy it. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of people actually interested in it, and maybe people like Shine, who are, I guess, iconic in this hobby, and it being iconic itself. It's like kind of like a grail card to kind of have if you're kind of like the big baller in this industry, right?
It could be like the ultimate flex, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you guys. Like, I wouldn't if I had the money, but that's the thing. It's like we wouldn't be thinking like this either. So I can't say if I had the money. If I had the money, then things would be a lot different. I probably would buy it. So
yeah, totally agree. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So we'll keep our eyes and ears open.
By the way, it's a yellow Lambo.
Oh wow, okay. So they get the yellow Lambo. They get
the yellow Lambo. Incredible. That's all I'm gonna say. Incredible. You can't make it up.
For sure. All right. Before we go on to our discussion of the day, you guys just completed a trade yourselves. It's not super high end like the triple Logoman, but it's pretty high end, right?
It's fairly high end, yeah.
Yeah, you want to let the audience in on it and why you guys made the trade?
So me and Johnny, we had that discussion. I guess, which one would you rather have, or was it a pick one? It was between the blue refractor, which John actually had, and I had the foil board, and they trade for similar value, but obviously the pop count on the blue refractor is a lot higher. And we highlighted that there's a lot of people who like the blue refractor because it's true color. Plus, there's enough where it's liquid enough where you could find sales constantly. So it keeps its value, as opposed to the foil board, which is a lower pop. And there's not as many sales because obviously it's a pop 11, so it's hard to find comps. So it's going to be a lot tougher to liquidate, right? So where I offered John was, I had the foil board, and I was actually going to sell it because I picked up two absolutely big Tatis paper, which the Independence Day 10 and the Father's Day Blue 10. So that was one of the moves that I wanted to make, and kind of maybe cash out on the foil board. I was really early on the foil board. So I know we had the discussion. John was, 50-50 with what he should do. So I just threw it, hey, I'm going to sell the foil board. But I'd rather honestly give it to John at that point. Just for a long-term hold. So I thought the trade worked in both of our favors because I'm selling the blue now, and he's basically just going to take the foil board.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, I got pretty lucky. I think Hyung and I are both in agreement. If you're holding long-term, foil board is the one that has the bigger potential. And to be honest, actually, I look back at the pricing because I've been wanting this foil board card. I have such a hard time saying it. Foil board card for a long time. The pricing actually at its peak, it's higher than the blue refractor, and I think that is due to the pop report.
Right.
There was one time where the pricing came down because
2100.
Yes, somebody.
But that was a bad sale.
Somebody had listed it on PW. You know when PWCC left up eBay and they started doing their Sunday weekly auction? It was the initial launch. So this was that first Sunday, and I was watching that card, and I was actually trying to bid on it. But remember how that first Sunday their servers were crashing? I couldn't even bid on the card. So it ended up selling for 2,100. So that ended up being a public sale that brought down the latest comp, right? So really, I think in both of our estimations, we both think the foil board is the bigger potential long term. But again, I think I got lucky here because Hyung is looking to liquidate. He's got to move some cash for some other projects. And, it was sort of like a win-win situation. So it worked out really well.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. And then I remember John traded his, probably 70 base cards for that
Yeah.
that he's blue,
Yeah.
right? And you know what? Me too. I was super early in on it, so for me, it's like it's a win-win regardless because
Right.
a profit's a profit.
Yeah.
So I've done well regardless, and I'm sure John's gonna do well with it as well in the future. So I think it was mutual. It was good, and it was a real life, I guess. Pick or 1v1.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Nice. Those are the best trades when it's always a win-win kind
Absolutely.
of situation,
For
right?
sure.
Nice. All right. Yeah, good trades are always fun. I'm hoping to make some big trades too at the upcoming Sports Card Expo here in Toronto. If you can believe it, it's 3 weeks away at this time of recording. So yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. So today, since we are recording just a few days before this Friday episode airs, we can talk about something maybe a little more timely, like the NBA and NHL playoffs. But more specifically, I want to ask, are there any players that have played or are still playing in the playoffs that either cemented for you as someone you're targeting in the hobby based on how they've performed, or maybe conversely, you don't know if that player's sports card is a good investment anymore just because they were just awful or no shows? So yeah, maybe we can start with basketball with teams that have played in the NBA playoffs. Any players come to mind for you guys?
I mean, after Jokic was named, I guess MVP, back-to-back MVP. I think there has to be a point where people are zoning in on him and realizing, what he's accomplished, and he still has a lot of years left, right? So, so I think there's guys like that, but like backtracking, we talk about how the market's soft right now, and my initial gut with everything, and we talked about this, is sticking with GOAT type players because, I mean, when you start thinking that the market it's gonna create and all these players will add value now to the card market, I don't think we're seeing that. In matter of fact, we're seeing the opposite. So I'm gonna go with guys that have to solidify their careers, right? So you look at, and then you look at like even vintage is still on an upward trend. It really hasn't hit any I guess downfalls.
Right.
So I think what you're seeing is like a huge correction, like we always talk about. So like for me, I think like even in the NHL, guys like Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, those guys that kind of have that conversation in GOAT type players, I think they're great to kind of zone in on and kind of see what just start looking at prices, because I think there's obviously going to be a playoff bump for some of these guys, and you don't really want to. When they're out golfing in the off season, that's probably when you want to, make your purchases, right? So,
sure.
Yeah, that's my kind of, I guess, take on that.
Yeah, you could go into NHL too, John, since Hyung opened the door already for
both. Well, you know what? I'm gonna actually go back quickly to NBA. You guys know my take on playoff purchases. I am not about the playoff purchases. This is the time to sell if you can. But in terms of NBA, I'm still you guys know me. Like, I'm still on Luka, I think Jason Tatum is another one. Like, I think people just kind of forget that Jason Tatum is one of the top 10 premier young players in the league. And he's kind of reminding everybody, anyone who bought him super cheap a couple of months ago, including you, Clark, good on you guys, because you guys are profiting from all these people who have been sleeping. But I think Luka is still that guy. And I think, when you watch some of the talking heads talk about playoffs, and you see it for Luka a lot. When you watch the game, some people start to criticize him now, right? Like, hey, he hogs the ball. He's in on way too many possessions. Look at how well they did when he was injured. Like, they were balling out. Look at the ball movement. They look like a better team. And some people were actually saying that about Ja Morant too. When he just got injured recently, you can see the way the Grizzlies were playing. There was more ball movement. People were touching the ball. I think, the rhythm seemed a lot better rather than people kind of standing around waiting for Ja to do something. And all of a sudden they get the ball and then they try to shoot it and they miss, right?
It reminds me of the Pass It to Will.
Yeah,
Prince of Bel-Air.
French Prince. Yeah.
Pass it to Will. What's the play? Pass it to Will. Sorry, go on.
But like when people criticize in that way, saying, look at look at the way the ball movement, look at the way when Luka doesn't play, look at the way when Ja doesn't play. Mm-hmm. You got to think about the other side. Coming from we're all Raptors fans, and good ball movement, teamwork is great. It's beautiful basketball to watch, but it can only get you so far, right? So as much as people think Dallas is better without Luka, no. For coming from a Raptors fan, that is not true, because if that ball movement disappears, if the team is out of rhythm, you're gonna need a stud to get baskets where there are no baskets to get, right? That's the bottom line. And that's the problem teams like the Raptors have, is they don't have a killer player that just give me the damn ball and I'm going to put the ball in the basket. The only time we had that was Kawhi, and you know what happened, right? So I think that narrative, like I think it's so messed up to talk and speak in those narratives. And Luka's getting kind of hit on it. Ja's getting kind of hit on it. And good for me. Good for anyone else who's trying to buy Luka, because his prices continue to kind of stay stale, if not kind of going down, even though, the series is tied up, right? So I'm still about Luka. I think he's special. I think, I think Jokic's special, Ja's special, Tatum is special. These are all guys that have been sort of hobby darlings, right? So I don't think, like Hyung was saying, kind of going after GOAT type players. I think that definitely that's the move.
Yeah, I'm not going to add on to that. Like, you see during the playoffs, the stud players are doing their thing, right? They're the ones carrying their team, despite the increased and improved ball movement, like you were just talking about, John. Right. Like, when it comes to the final shot, you still want that stud player to take that shot, So, so yeah, you guys already mentioned Jason Tatum. I was pretty early on him during this earlier this season. Luka, I've already bought a Silver Prism, and those guys, they're young still, right? Like, right. If you listen to the pundits, the ones that really watch basketball, they say they still have a lot to improve, whether it's their defense, whether it's some other skill, and will it take time to get there? Maybe another year or two, and then just imagine what they can do then when they have another like skill set to add to their already high floor, right? So like Tatum and Luka's, those two guys I'm super bullish on. The only thing I'm kind of concerned is like Ja Morant. Like we talked about this before, like he just goes all in, and then he hurts himself doing that. Like I think the latest news today was that he might not return to the playoffs.
He has a bone bruise.
Like, come on, Ja.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. Like it's exciting to watch that kid play. Like, I love Ja Morant, and I almost like FOMO'd in. I'm like, oh damn, I want to buy one right now. Like at its peak.
Yeah, right? I think his prices are super high. Like,
I think it'll go down.
I mean, I think you need to learn. You need to learn the lessons from Luka.
You do.
You need to learn the lessons from the market, for especially the basketball market, right? So
yeah. I think he's special. So yeah, I'm gonna wait till the off season to maybe scoop one up if the prices go down a lot. Especially with Golden State looking like by the time this airs, Memphis will probably be out of the playoffs. But I didn't hear you guys say Giannis. I know, like, John, you weren't high on Giannis in previous episodes, and then he won the championship. Are you still off of Giannis? You had no respect for him? Come on, man.
No, I do. I'm not, as much as I kind of stayed away from, I'm not a hater of Giannis. Let's be clear. I might be a hater of LeBron, but not with Giannis. I think he definitely deserves more respect. I haven't paid attention to his card movement. I don't know if they've been going up or down.
Flat.
If it's pretty flat, I think Giannis is another kind of Luka territory buy. It's a great time to purchase it, or wait till the offseason. Who knows? But yeah, we'll see. But I think I you can't go wrong. I think it's completely fine to spend some money on Giannis.
Yeah, no, I'm all in on Giannis. If there's a top 3 cards I'm looking at next, he's in that list before it goes up. Like, I don't want to even imagine if Milwaukee goes back to back this season. Then maybe that's what it'll take for Giannis cards to go to the moon, but
Right.
we'll see.
I will say Embiid's cards are way too cheap, and he's way too good of a player. I know, like a lot of people think he's soft, but I think his cards are way too cheap from what he's accomplished. He's still young. He still has a lot to play. He was injured his first 2 seasons, so that kind of hurts him. But he led the league in scoring, and he gave Jokic a good run for MVP. I thought, there's arguments on both sides, but his prices are like a fraction of, some of the comparables, right? And comparables, being, I guess Giannis and Jokic, right? So
yeah,
he's the cheapest out of all 3. So I think there's some value there in the offseason too, especially in the earlier years of Prism where they didn't, pump the print runs up, right? So
I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's just something about Giannis, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree with me. Giannis with Embiid. He's not really that likable. You know what I'm saying? Like Jokic, he's a big guy. He's kind of likable. You see some of his personality and character kind of come out. Yeah, he complains a lot, when things get heated or whatnot. And Giannis, the same thing. Like, I think he's a very likable personality. But sure. Embiid, I don't know. I feel like Embiid might rub people the wrong way. He's not necessarily like a super likable kind of character or personality within the NBA. And on top of that, he's a big man. So I feel like that might have something to do with people not kind of like jumping on board or going all in, because I don't really think Embiid is kind of anybody's favorite player in the NBA, right? So
unless you're a Sixers fan, right?
Unless you're a Sixers fan, true. So that kind of probably has a lot to do with it, because everybody has a budget, everybody has priorities, and Embiid, to be honest, is probably not even on the list for many people in terms of any type of priority, right? So I think
show that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think something about his likability or lack thereof, I think that definitely kind of hurts.
But you think like 10 years from now, people are going to be like talking about his personality?
No,
I forgot.
No, exactly.
And that's the thing.
This is the whole like Carmelo Anthony swan song thing, right? Like eventually when he's that Hall of Famer, that big time, he has all the credentials, for sure at that point, people are going to give him his due respect, but.
Right. So it might not be a bad move to kind of like buy cheap, lock it in a safe. Sure. Who cares about the price, right?
Right.
You know what
Especially
I mean?
if we're talking like one of the top percentile cards of Embiid, like a RPA or something bigger, right? Like something really, really rare.
Yeah. No, I could see, like, I could agree that there's tremendous value in Embiid right now, but yeah, I'm kind of nervous. Like his injury past, even now he seems to get these freak accidents with his latest concussion, and that's going to impact his play. So who knows, right? But I think for Embiid, best case scenario for him, in my opinion, is like Charles Barkley. You know what I mean? Like maybe he won't win a chip, but Barkley's a well-respected basketball player.
Right.
Even now, and his rookie cards have really good value too, right? So yeah, we'll see. All right. Any couple of NHL picks from you, John? I know Hyung mentioned Matthews and McDavid going after the GOATs. I wanted to say Cale Makar, like as of this recording, he's leading the NHL playoffs with 10 points. That could change by the time this airs, but he's playing for a hot team, and I think the Avalanche is the favorite to go all the way, right? But he's a defenseman, right? So I don't know. You're the hockey guy.
He is a big time sell for me. Big time. Okay. Just looking at his prices, knowing that he's a D-man, he is probably the only D-man that is carrying like relative hobby values and high at that. I think his Future Watch auto, or is it Future Watch? I don't know. I'm looking at prices. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe.
He has like a retro Future Watch auto.
Yeah, like I mean, it's in the thousands, like maybe 3,000 or something ridiculous. Right.
So a trap.
Yeah, I would say no. I mean, okay, let's be honest. The kid is special. He's got all the talent in the world. He's looking like the next Erik Karlsson. But I don't know. I don't think the hobby is going to keep up with D-men that strong, like in terms of like values in the thousands. So I'd be very, very careful. If you had it, I think it's a great time.
To your point, look at Karlsson's value, right? Erik Karlsson's value.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyone else?
Yeah, I got a couple. I mean, one I'm kind of giving away for a future segment that we're going to do, but Kucherov is definitely a big one for me.
Okay.
I would put Kucherov on the list. I would put Panarin. I still am a firm believer in his special ability and that he's like a very underrated superstar. And then the Calgary, I know they play for Calgary, but Gaudreau and Kachuk, I think they're,
Okay.
you can get their Future Watch autos for under $500. I think that's great value for two guys that are putting up 100-point seasons. And that's pretty nice to me.
I love Panarin too, but like it looks like they're gonna be out of the playoffs, right?
Yeah, that's
Crosby's gonna put them away.
Yeah, our boy Crosby.
Right.
And that's what worries me about like guys like Panarin. Like I sold a Young Guns PSA 10 today for like $150.
It's $150 so down. It's
but
crazy.
$150. Wow.
Yeah, so you see a guy like that's been in the league that has proven that he's a star, right? And this is that mid lull that we talk about. That this is why I can't like third, fourth year players. You see the trend in like Trae Young's and other stars that have to kind of prove that 6, 7, 8, 9 year season until prices start actually coming back into play, right? So that's what really concerns me about even like hockey, and that's why I say the safe bet is the GOATs. It's a higher buy-in, but it's tough because those are the ones that tank first, right? Like guys that are kind of like the mid tier, I'd say B type all-stars, right?
Yeah. The only thing that's really tempting about hockey cards though is some of these hot rookies or young players so cheap.
Yeah, they are cheap.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even Mitch Marner, like his prices are getting up there, but he's an Austin Matthews shadow, and
Big
I think
time.
that's part of why his cards are down. But like any Leafs fan will say like he's got incredible talent, and next season he could take another step up.
He could score 100 points, and that could totally change.
Easily.
Totally change prices too, right? So
that's one guy.
Absolutely.
And Kirill Kaprizov, I just think he's such an underrated guy.
Yeah.
He won Rookie of the Year last year, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And he's still putting up numbers. And I don't know if it's because he plays for the Wild.
He's a little older too, though, right?
I think he's a little older.
He's a little older. He's from Russia, so
5th round pick under the radar. He scored 40. He's been a goal scorer his whole life. He scored 47 goals this year.
Though. Yeah,
108 points. I don't know, something over 100 points for sure. I think he's a big time buy. With hockey, like kind of going back to Panarin, the hockey market is still very, very suppressed and it's very low. And again, people are only collecting Crosby, McDavid, Ovechkin, and now Matthews. But I think as new sets start to come out, because we're seeing a little bit of the hype in like Series 1 and stuff, let's wait to see what happens when SB Authentic comes out and people start chasing Kaprizov Future Watch autos, right? Man, that product is like, I think it's like 18 months behind. It's so late. Like,
I know.
Yeah,
Kaprizov is not even out and he's from last year, right?
I know.
Like, we still have to wait another 18 months for like the Zegras SB Authentic Future Watch, right? So I think
I was looking. Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
was going to say to that point, I was looking for Kaprizov's SP Future Watch autos. I'm like, why isn't it coming up on any eBay search?
Yeah.
It's not out yet.
It's not even out yet. It's insane.
that's why they have their those retros. They're like 2 years, 3 years, like late.
Right.
That's Cale McCarr's too. Like his came out 2019, right? So it's like 2-3 years
behind.
after, right? So it's kind of, I guess that's what happened with Jack Eichel, but I guess Eichel was like had signability issues or something like that.
Yeah.
He
He signed with the Leafs. Like
thing.
there's some issues with the contracts.
Right.
Okay.
But anyways, I think hockey, you can make a small bet that once the chase of Future Watch comes out, because really Future Watch has really blown up into the limelight in the last like 12 months. And in the last 12 months, there have been no products to rip for Future Watch. So I think this build up to rip Future Watch is going to start coming. And I think Zegras, these guys, Kaprizov, like they're going to be super collectible and they're going to be very, very sought after and hyped. But I think that might bring hockey into the limelight. And I think at that point, if people are really into it, they might start to think, oh, let me take a look at some other hockey players.
Go back, right.
And go back and then realize, oh my goodness, like Panarin, Gaudreau, Jonathan Huberdeau, like these guys are so cheap compared to like, where they are in the rankings, right? So there might be an opportunity in the next 1 or 2 years where hockey starts to make a bit of a run up. So Panarin, a guy like Panarin, I don't think is like a buy right now because you're going to flip it in 6 months. I think you're kind of betting on hockey going up. And if you believe that hockey as a segment is going to go up within the sports card world, you start better building that, you should start building that collection. I think that's what I'm going to start doing, man. I've been
slowly build that hockey collection.
Slowly building hockey.
While it's cheap.
Yeah. I like that. I like that analysis.
The problem I have with hockey, and I realize even like high end hockey, like you don't have too many parallels, right? So that's the first issue you have. So you either have young guns, right, which everybody goes after. It's kind of boring, but then you have your foils and your clear cuts that are super overpriced in my opinion. Like it's like there's no in between gap. So that's where kind of like the SP Authentic Auto is like such a good value because it's like way cheaper than Young Guns parallels, right? Because on Superstars, like Young Guns parallels are like out of budget for most people, right?
Super
it's
hard
ridiculous.
to hit.
Super hard to hit. Yeah, and so there's really no options, right? So that's why even then there's no SP Authentic, but there's no options to buy, right? So that's the only issue I find with hockey, just being being a fan of parallels.
Right.
Yeah. I don't want no base. I don't want the Young Guns. Really, I want a numbered card, and that's my kind of go-to always, like we talked about, right? So hopefully, Upper Deck and SP, do better jobs with making it more fun, like we said, creating
come on, Upper Deck, let's get on
let's go. Yeah. Chrome.
Upper Deck needs Chrome, man.
I know.
All right. Yeah, no, you know what? This is a fun discussion because, it's playoff time, and as sports fans, it's exciting just to watch the teams play at a, this is when the teams really try, right? Like the inside joke is no one tries in the regular season for basketball, especially, and everyone just, just like goes all out during the playoffs. And I think as I agree with you, John, like probably not the best time to buy on some of these players that are really doing well during the playoffs where they're just in the spotlight all the time. But for a lot of these guys, you could see if they're the real deal or not, right? Like when the pressure's on them. And then, wait for the offseason and see if their prices go down and you have that stronger conviction in that player. Yeah, I think it becomes an easier buy when the prices drop, and then, just go all in or invest in those players.
Right.
All right. Thanks for everyone listening to this Friday episode. We appreciate every one of you. If you haven't subscribed, you can do so wherever you listen to your podcast. We appreciate 5 stars if you enjoyed the show. And we'll see you again on Tuesday. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.